Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and today we're going to be learning the two main riffs that lurk within one of the biggest metal songs of all time, Metallica's almighty hit, Enter Sandman. First we're going to learn the clean riff that I just played, then we're going to learn the heavier version it morphs into, this one right here. As I know you know, Enter Sandman was the opening track and debut single from the album that transformed Metallica from being a really big metal band into being one of the biggest rock bands of all time. Literally all over the world. This one here, this is actually the transcription book, and by the way, this is the original transcription book, and it is wrong in a lot of places, including the first riff I'm going to teach you, so see ya! The record I'm referring to is, of course, the legendary self-titled album that was unleashed in 1992. It is frequently referred to as the Black Album for pretty obvious reasons, namely its cover. At the time of making this video, the Black Album has sold over 28 million copies worldwide, and 16 million of those are in America alone. Not shabby, my friend, not shabby at all. Let's start off with the catchy opening clean riff of Enter Sandman that consists of a mere 6 notes. This one right here. And just so you know, this riff uses the E minor blues scale exclusively. This simple scale has been used in countless amazing rock and metal riffs over the years, including Walk This Way by Aerosmith, Heartbreaker by Led Zeppelin, and of course Pantera's legendary Cowboys from Hell, to name but 3. And by the way, if you don't happen to know the minor blues scale yet, don't fret because there's a link to a lesson on it in the description below. So, what are you launching around here for? Go away, learn it, and I'll be waiting for you right here, I promise. Now, to play this opening riff so it sounds exactly like the recorded version involves some pretty unorthodox but surprisingly logical fingering, courtesy of Mr. James Hetfield himself. Now, a lot of people simply play it like this, and I used to, for many, many years actually. Here's the wrong way, the way I used to do it. Granted, that is pretty darn close and sounds pretty good too, but it ultimately wins the esteemed close but no carrot award. The reason it misses? Well, if you listen to the album version very closely, you'll notice that both the E note at the 7th fret on the A string, this one right here, and also the G note at the 5th fret on the D string, this one right here, are allowed to ring throughout the riff. The trouble is, when you finger the G note on the D string with your first finger like this, when it comes time to play the A note at the same exact fret on the low E string, over here, you have to literally lift your finger off the D string and move it to the E string, thus stopping the note you want to ring from ringing. And that's not good, hence the reason it gets the close but no carrot award. Now, of course, if we wanted, we could just hit the open G string note there instead of the fretted one on the D string, like this. Now that definitely sounds close to the real deal, but to my ears that open string note just sounds too bright. Plus it throws in some extra string hopping, and I don't want to do that. Thanks to a deep dive on the YouTubes, I managed to find some great close-up footage of Mr. Hetfield's hands when Metallica played Enter Sandman live on the Howard Stern show. So, what I'm about to show you is the official 100% true James Hetfield fingering for this conundrum. And it is this, as I just played at the start. What I'm doing here, as you can hopefully see, is this. I'm fretting the E note at the 7th fret with my pinky, and the G note at the 5th fret on the D string with my middle finger. Fingering them like this allows both notes to ring throughout the whole riff, because when I want to play the note at the 6th fret on the E string, I can use my 3rd finger like this, and when I play the note at the 5th fret, I can use my 1st finger. So thus, my 2nd finger or my middle finger and my ring finger never leave those all-important ringing notes. They stay planted as if some nasty person has nailed them or superglued them to the fretboard. Nice. Like I said, they do not budge. They cannot budge, and this is how Mr. Hetfield does it. One more time, this is how it sounds. This somewhat counterintuitive fingering explained, let's break the 6th note riff down into 2 very digestible bite-sized chunks of just 3 notes apiece, shall we? So, get your pinky and middle fingers locked into place as just discussed, and let's get to it. Here are said first 3 notes, our first chunk, and like I already said, you've got to let them all ring. It's the open low E string note, followed by the E string note at the 7th fret on the A string, and then the G note at the 5th fret on the D string, just like this. Pretty easy thus far, right? Just make sure you're making a nice big bridge with that little finger. You don't want it leaning against the D string, otherwise you'll get... Nah, don't want that, we need this. The next 3 notes are these bad boys. One more time. And like I've just said, remember, do not move the pinky and middle fingers of your fretboard hand. They stay where they are, exactly where they are. Like I said, imagine someone has superglued them to the fretboard. That stated, here are the 3 notes one at a time. The first of said 3 is the B-flat note at fret 6 on the low E string note, which you fret with your ring finger, just like this. This is then followed by the A note at the 5th fret on the same string, which you fret with your first or pointer finger like this. Like I said, remember these 2 fingers, your middle and pinky, do not move. I repeat, they do not move. As for the final note of this second lot of 3, it's the E note at the 7th fret on the A string again, which you're already holding down, by the way, because you haven't moved your pinky, right? Yes, easy. So if we add those 2 3-note chunks together, we have this. Then when you've mastered that, all we do is get it up to speed and then loop it so it's a round and round and round and round, just like the intro of the song. Like this. And so on and so forth until it's time to move. Next is the dirty variant of this beguiling riff, which is this one right here. Yes. Just like before, let's break this one down into a couple of bite-sized sections, shall we? The first one is this bad boy, which consists of 2 open E5 power chords and then the 4 notes we've already used in the opening clean riff, namely these. Again, a little slower. The open E5 power chord is a simple, one-fingered affair consisting of 2 notes played at the exact same time with 1 deft down pick, like this. These 2 notes are the open low E string note, plus the B note at the 2nd fret on the A string, which I'm holding down with my pointer finger. So I hit them both together and play it twice, just like this. Make sense? Pretty easy, right? Having done this, I then slide up to the E note at the 7th fret on the A string with my 3rd finger, just like this. One more time, a little slower. You can start this slide wherever you'd like. The important thing here is to make sure you actually stop at the 7th fret. You obviously don't want to overshoot the slide or fall short. And the trick to doing this is a simple one I learned from Dimebag Darrell, the late great man. All you do is this, you keep your eye on the goal, so you look at where you're sliding before you start the slide. Make sense? Like my dear mum always used to tell me, look where you're going, Nick. For goodness sake, look where you're going. So once again, so far we've got this. 2 power chords and then a deft, accurate slide to the 7th fret on the A string. Next up we do this. We play the B flat note at the 6th fret on the low E string with our middle finger. Then we play the A note at the 5th fret on the same string with our first finger. And for good measure, we add a little bit of finger vibrato to said A note by shaking it with our finger, just like this. This means that thus far we've got this. One more time, a little slower. Perfect. And guess what? One more note and then we're done with this section. And that note is simply a palm muted low E string note, like this. And we just add that to the end of what we've just learnt. It's almost like a percussive thing. So it's... Make sense? Here it is one more time, a little slower. And thus ends section 1. So all you've got to do is learn it up to speed and then repeat it 3 times in succession, just like this. And guess what this means? One more section to go and we're done. And our second and final section of this all-important riff sounds like this. One more time, a little slower. As you've just seen and heard, this little section consists of a couple of root 5th power chords, a couple of open low E string notes chugged away, and a bunch of palm muting. Let's break it down. We start with a G5 power chord played on the low E and A strings, namely the 3rd fret on the low E and the 5th fret on the A. This one here. As already stated, I prefer to use my first and pinky fingers to do this. The reason being, the pinky also holds down the D string at the 5th fret, which happens to be a G note. That means if I inadvertently hit the D string as well, I'm merely playing a G5 with 2 Gs instead of just 1. Like this. See what I mean? G and G. Once again, though, if you prefer 1st and 3rd fingers, you can also do that bar with your 3rd if your hand's big enough and it feels comfortable, or you can bring in your pinky to hold down the D string at the 5th fret. This means there's 4 ways you can play it, like this, like this, like this, or like this. Like I said, pick the one that feels best to you. After this single G5 power chord, I then play a palm muted low open E string note followed by a palm muted F sharp 5 power chord, which is played at the 2nd and 4th frets on the low E and A strings respectively, like this. As you can see, the F sharp 5 power chord is merely the G5 fingering shape moved back 1 fret. So here's G5. And there's F sharp 5 once I've moved my hand manually. I of course don't have to use my other hand to move my hand. I can do it by myself with the low E string palm muted in between like this. After these 3 notes, guess what I do next? Yep, I repeat the palm muted open low E string note and the F sharp 5 power chord pairing again, giving me this in total. And again, a hair slower. Not bad, huh? And that just leaves us with 2 palm muted power chords to add, and we already know them because guess what? They're the G5 and F sharp 5 power chords in that order. So we just go after what we've just done. So the whole thing is this, slowly. One more time. And a little faster. Once you've mastered this, if we then play section 1 3 times, followed by what we've just learned, which is section 2, we have the whole enchilada, which is this. And here it is played twice in succession, just like before the first verse of the classic Enter Sandman. And there you have it, my friend, the 2 riffs from Enter Sandman that most people want to learn right off the bat. Now, as cool as being able to play this pair is though, in my humble opinion, being able to play along to the whole song is even cooler. And just so you know, you're only a handful of riffs away from being able to do exactly that. Solo aside, of course. So if you'd like me to do another lesson on those missing in action riffs, please let me know in the comments below. Have fun with this pair of wonderful riffs, and remember, sleep with one eye open, gripping your pillow tight, my friend. I'm out of here. See ya! Thanks a lot for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, nicely of course, and subscribe. Click here for more videos like this and go to sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs. Good night, my friend. Sleep tight.